Let's do this. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. I forgot to hit record on the thingy. Hey Nuts. Hey Mahalo. Welcome to the stream. Hey guys. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. Good day. Good day to you guys. Hey guys. So today is Monday, and I feel like the weekend just flew by. And I did not get to rest like I really wanted to last weekend. Mostly because we ended up doing a whole bunch of gardening, and it did not go the way we wanted it to. So I will get into that a little bit later on. But as a result of the work that we did last weekend in the garden, I'm pretty darn tired. I didn't want to skip another stream, so I'm out here. I feel exhausted, but I can breathe for the most part. So I am a little concerned as we go that I might lose my breath. If that's the case, we'll probably end the stream a little bit early. My goal is at least an hour and a half stream. Hopefully we can make it up to 2 hours. But I'm not going to go any longer than 2 hours just because I need the extra rest. So we are here. We are going to get as far as we can on our shackle project. So on Monday of last week, so exactly a week from today, we started working on some hooks and shackles. We finished this hook, and it was all right. It's a little bit I wasn't amazingly happy with it. And then on Friday, we worked on this hook. We got it almost done. We do need to finish the J shape, so we're going to be doing that today. That's going to be our very first thing. And then from there, we've got our 2J hooks, and we're going to start making shackles. So I've got 2 pieces of 5/8 inch stock, and they're 4 inches long. We are going to be making these shackles inside of the eye hooks. So they'll be inside of these guys. So what we're going to start with on these is we are going to draw out that central area. We're probably going to take the corners off of one side, leave them on the other side. That way we can thread these through the eye hole. Then we're going to be upsetting the ends and creating our punches for our shackle eyes. So we've got 4 more punches to do. We're going to use a slit and drift method just like we did for this guy. All right. So I got an hour. I have about a minute and a half to our first ad. And so I am going to start up the forge and start getting this guy warm. Hopefully some hot too. Just like outside, it is like super hot in here today. It is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're probably going to end up using the industrial fan here shortly. But for the moment, I got a nice cross breeze. We've got the door and the garage door open. So hopefully we won't need the fan too because it's really loud. Hey Shelly, welcome to the stream. Alrighty. Safety equipment. Woohoo! We have made it. I've still got time to spare. All right, this guy is going in the forge. I actually was able to make it go in the forge today. I was a little bit worried that it wasn't going to fit, but it did. So we're good to go. All right, this guy is going to go over here for now. I do think we're going to have to expand this eye a little bit further. We'll probably see about cooling down this side of it and doing the stretching on this side. Hopefully we can make it a little bit bigger so that it'll go through our shackle when we get that far. I'll probably use this one initially for the first shackle just to it's a little bit bigger. It's going to be a lot easier to get the piece of steel through and then do the upset. So So we're going to try doing things the simple way before we do the harder way. For once in my life. All right. So yeah, this weekend was absolutely, and it was insanity. Um, so as some of you guys know, the butler and I have started to try and make a garden, like grow things. I've never grown anything before on my own, and it's been kind of like something that my mom would do, but I wouldn't do it. So we are attempting to grow a garden, and it's been a lot more work than I anticipated. So once the ad is over, I'll tell you guys a little bit about our experience this weekend gardening. It's been a trip. We'll say that much. Oh goodness. I really hope that I have that I get a second wind, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. Sometimes if I feel like I can't breathe very well, I come out here and I just seem to get a second wind, and I'm just raring to go, and I can complete an entire stream with no issue. So hopefully that happens today, but I'm not counting on it. So I figure if I plan for a shorter stream, then it's a happy bonus the longer I go. Alrighty. So, yeah, we're here. We're doing things. Working. Yeah. So we are back, and so I'll kind of talk to you guys a little bit about my experience gardening this weekend. So we have not prepared any of our ground at all prior to this weekend, and the butler's like, oh, we'll just get one of those hand tillers, and then I will just go out there and like till the ground, and it'll be fine. It won't take that long, and we'll be good to go, right? So we got this like little T with like little claws at the end, and you're supposed to be able to like hammer or like really shove it into the ground and then turn it, and that turns the earth or the dirt, and kind of loosens up all of the grass and all of the whatever is there under the grass. And so the butler started doing that, and man, it could not get any progress. It was just kind of like really, really hard. Yes, sod busting. Yes, that's exactly what was going on. We were sod busting, and it is super hard work. So the butler was working for a while and got the perimeter sort of busted up. And we decided that it was way too much effort to do that by hand, and that our grass was just too sturdy and strong. And so we decided that we were going to rent an electric tiller, or I guess a motor tiller, like a gas one. Yeah, it had gas in it, and it's like like a lawnmower, but it's a tiller. Anyway, so I rented a tiller for Sunday, and whoo-wee, that thing was heavy. I had no idea how big the machine I was renting was, because I reserved it online, so I didn't even see like an actual size for it. So we get there in the truck, and they had to load it in the truck in like this weird machine forklift thing. It was like a flatbed, and it kind of worked like just a forklift, I guess. And so when we got it home, we had to grab out the engine hoist. I just thank goodness that we have an engine hoist, because I mean, I don't know how we would have gotten it out of the bed of the truck to use if we didn't have the engine hoist. The thing was probably several hundred pounds, at least 300 pounds. And I mean, the chain hoist is awesome, the engine hoist. So we eventually got it back into the yard and we started working with it. But man, it was exhausting. We still have yet to even plant the plants. So yeah. Needless to say, I spent my weekend helping the butler with this gardening project because it was kind of my idea, so I felt like maybe I should help a little. So needless to say, I'm a little bit tired. All right, we've got some heat, but not a lot yet, so we'll let the heat soak into the hook a little bit further. So yeah, I had no idea that it was gonna see it. I saw the machine and the thing was like yay big, right? And I'm like, oh, it's gonna take like 30 seconds practically to bust up the yard and it'll be fine. Man, it took like hours to do these like two little small patches. And originally we were gonna do like a really, really big, like 10-foot by 10-foot section to do garden stuff. We don't even have enough plants to cover that. But it was, we were just going to buy more plants, right? So needless to say, we have two 10-foot long strips that are about 2 feet wide. We've got one about here and one like, about 8 foot on the other side. And the butler's like, oh, it'll be great because then everything, when it comes to picking them, it'll all be within arm's reach. I'm like, okay, if you say so. Well, it was a failed hold my beer by the butler. Not amazingly. I mean, we still got some ground busted up. It looks pretty nice out there. The area that was busted up, not the area that we attempted to complete but did not actually complete. So now we just have like some big, like dug up little grass tuft areas in between the two, like or cultivated strips or whatever. I don't know. I'll have to go out there and maybe I will post a video of it on YouTube. I want to do a video once I've got all of the different like plants planted. It'll probably be a short, like maybe an extra one that comes out next week. But yeah, it's been a thing. And you'll definitely get to see some more of the garden as it grows because I am planning on doing the gardening tools that you guys requested. So I will make sure that I get some shots of me using the tools that we make out in the garden as it goes. All right, we got enough heat, maybe. We'll try it. And let me hit record real fast. Okay. I don't know. I did not realize that this project was going to be so time consuming and so much effort. It's just like the amount of effort that we're putting into this garden. I don't know. I feel like it is more effort than what we would have done if the butler was just mowing it. All right, so I think we're gonna do another heat to kind of shape that hook a little bit further, and then we're gonna do another heat so that we can kind of bend this off center so that the circle for the eye will be a little bit closer to the middle of the hook. Wait till you get to weeding. I know. It's going to be the worst, guys. It's going to be the worst. And I know it's going to be the worst because we did not lay down any, like, because I know, like, when you do, like, the little garden beds for, like, shrubs and, like, flowers and stuff, you're supposed to put down that, like, that fabric stuff, right? We don't have any of that to use for the garden. So I think it's going to take a lot more effort to weed this stuff because we're not killing all of the weeds underneath of the plants. But I mean, there's still time to get the fabric. We haven't even planted our plants yet. So we're supposed to be doing that after the butler gets back from work, but we'll see how tired I am by then. Cardboard works. See, that's the thing. We've got a million pounds of cardboard because we've constantly got boxes coming here. So, yeah, landscape fabric is a lie anyway. Is it? Like I said, I've never done any like landscaping or like yard stuff on my own. When I was younger, when I lived with my parents, I would mow the lawn and like I would help my parents kind of with some of the landscaping stuff, but I never did any of it on my own. So I just followed instructions as best I could, and I left all of the decision making and the important strategic planning to my parents. So, and then these days, I don't even mow the lawn because that's the butler's job. I do a little bit of like pruning occasionally on like the hedges and stuff. Cardboard and mulch feed the soil. That's the way to go. Okay. Well, that does sound a lot easier to handle. We've got a lot of cardboard just laying around. And yeah, it should work pretty well. See, now the other thing that I've always found to be really good at killing plants is leaving sheet metal out in the yard. When I was, or when we were trying to kill some like um, plants that we did not want, we just took one of my sheets of sheet steel and just laid it on top of there for like a couple weeks, and it just killed everything under that sheet steel. And it's partially because no sun gets to it, so it can't photosynthesize. But I think it's also has to do with the weight of the sheet steel. I don't want to have to like drill holes for each of the little plants to come through, because they're gonna get bigger and So I think it's gonna be better to use cardboard, not sheet steel. But if you are trying to kill some grass, if you got some sheet steel laying around, it works pretty well. All right, let's do another heat. Sheet steel gets really hot in the sun too. It definitely does. Maybe that's one of the reasons too. Maybe it's scorching the plants. All right, one more heat. We're gonna turn it around a little bit. That's actually a little bit too much of a thing. All right, let's see what if I compare the two. They're not too different. This one's a little bit longer, but I don't think that's too bad. All right, so like I said, we're gonna bend this way a little bit to kind of straighten out the hook so it all lines up real nice. Right now, if we put it there, it's gonna hang this direction, and then like the loop is gonna be weird. So we're gonna bend this a little bit that way. I don't know. I think the new one is a little bit better looking, all in all. Is my lawnmower a bagger? No. So we, like I said, on numerous occasions, we actually have about 2 acres, and the butler uses a push mower to mow it, and it takes like a half-gallon of gas to get through the whole thing, and like 2.5 hours. And we only do one half of the yard a week, right? So it's like an every other week rotation. The first week is the front yard, the second week is the backyard. because you gotta keep the front yard shorter than the backyard. Otherwise, you'll get like, the city hounding you about having long grass. So I don't know. We're not amazingly good with the whole yard thing to begin with. And so I'm a little bit surprised that we even decided to do this garden thing in the first place. But, it's a thing, it's a hobby, right? I kind of have to come up with a different sort of hobby because, my hobby has become my job. So now I need a new hobby, right? We shall see if gardening is that hobby. All right. So, right now we are heating up the eye and a little bit of the neck beyond that eye. And I want to move the material and bend the eye backwards a little bit. So in order to not crush the eye, we are going to cool it off in the quench bucket, and then we're going to start working for our next heat. I'm trying to wait and make sure that I've got plenty of heat on there so that makes it a little bit easier. That way we can start working on our first shackle. And once again, ad nauseum, please don't use these shackle and hook designs for anything engineering. So no overhead, no heavy weights. Like I said, I have in the past several streams, I have no idea how much weight these hooks and shackles will handle. And I would hate to see you guys get injured because of one of my designs. So unless you guys want to redesign it and take it to an engineer and get it all tested and worked up, please don't use these designs. All right, let's do another heat. Okie doke. I knew that was going to happen. That was just coming. All right, let's see if I can't pick this up a little bit easier. Raw. It's not too bad. We've gotten a little bit more of a bend in there. You guys can kind of see that. So we are bent a little bit this way, and I think that's probably about where we're going to leave that for now. So I think, like I said, this is probably the end of this piece, and we're going to start on a new piece. Drop. Yeah, we get to drop things a lot today, I think. I think. Okay. And I'm going to cool this guy off. In my water bucket. Still a little bit on the warm side. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so they're not exactly the same. This one, like I said, it's a little bit wider. The hole is, and I think that's really where the extra height comes in. So that, and we've got a little bit of extra on this section right here. So, but overall, I think they're all right. This one, like I said, I might need to stretch this guy a little bit further. I want to cool this section down. It's a little bit thinner than this section. We'll try and kind of stretch this side out a little bit. So now we have two eye hooks, or hook eyes, however you want to call that. So, yeah, I spent most of my weekend on the yard gardening. I had originally intended on doing a whole bunch of resting and some research um, because I really want to make a guillotine hardy tool, which is a tool that's basically it is a rectangular frame that has a hardy square hole in it so that it can sit inside of the square hole on the anvil, and then you can put little dies in them, and then you can stick your pieces of steel in there, hammer the top die, and it'll start making whatever your dies are meant to do. So you can make like coins or acorns. You can make tenons. They make tenons so much easier. That's one of the reasons that we are building this particular piece, is so that we can make some lovely tenons a lot easier. I have a lot of issue doing tenons. So I was supposed to do research because I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of good plans out there that we can just like take because people have generously put them out on the internet for free so that you can make those. And so once I get the plans, I will send you guys the link in the Discord and we'll kind of take a look at them together and see what we like about it, what we don't. And I'll probably try and start making those within the next couple of weeks. We are about halfway through this month. So I don't think that we're going to get to that project until either just before our BAM conference or after BAM. I haven't decided if my next project is going to be another set of tongs or if it's going to be that piece. So I think this week we'll probably still be working on our hooks and shackles. Hopefully we can finish that by like Wednesday if we do a longer stream, or maybe the beginning of Friday. But I think our next project start is going to be a week from today. So like I said, it's either going to be the guillotine tool, which is going to be a very fabrication front project. So a lot of it is going to be cutting my steel plate and welding pieces together. And then also doing some drilling, because we're going to be drilling out that frame, and that way we've got like a little square that we can put our pieces of steel in through the dies. And then the other project is going to be a set of wolf jaw tongs. Most of the tongs that I have are bolt jaw tongs. That's the extra circle on the bottom is what differentiates a set of bolt jaw tongs. They are designed specifically for holding bolts with larger heads. So this round section it gives you leeway to have that head there and still hold onto your material. The reason I have so many of them is because I can choke up on the piece of steel and have a little bit more control over it, I feel like, if I have a longer piece of steel. So long enough that I can't use my hand to hold it, but too long for a traditional set of tongs. Oh, goodness gracious. So yeah, after those two projects, we are going to start working on some gardening tools, I think. I think that the guillotine tool is going to help us a lot with the gardening tool, like the different things that we need to do. So I think that it's going to help us a lot for like if we're making a trowel. I think that it's going to help us a lot for a few other pieces that I want to make. So I'm super looking forward to having that tool. It's one that I have wanted for many, many years, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. I even bought the materials for it, and I never made one. All right, how's our piece of steel doing, guys? How's our piece of steel? Starting to get, or it's starting to look pretty warm. So let's see what we can do with it. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. We'll start. Hill Chaser, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Hopefully you're having fun. I know I am. As much as I am exhausted today, I am super glad to be out here in the shop. It is one of my favorite places to be. All right. As I said earlier, this is going to be a stream filled with drops. All right, I'm going to get this a little bit more hot. What you can kind of see here is I'm starting to pinch the material and leaving myself a little square of material on that side. And the reason I want to do that is because this is going to be the area where that eye lives. Need to leave enough material that we can open that up for a bolt. Hello and thank you. Yeah, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, let me breathe for half a second. When I start having to do some really heavy hammering, that's where I knew that I was gonna struggle a little bit today. I have a chronic illness, and it affects my breathing heavily. So when I start exerting myself, I end up losing my breath very, very quickly. So I do what I can, and you know, we've got some accommodations so that we don't have to worry too bad. But yeah, sometimes I can't, like, you know, I can't prevent it. All right, so I haven't used the press recently. This might actually be a good time for it. Maybe we will do a little bit on the press. That should help me out. I built the press for this very reason, so that I didn't have to exert myself this much, or as much. So let's do that. Recently, I've kind of forgotten that I had it. I do really enjoy doing things by hand. There's like a certain amount of pride in the community for doing things by hand, but I've done quite a bit of this process by hand. So we're going to do the first one at least with the press, I think. Okay. All right. We've moved our camera so you guys will be able to see it. Next, we need to plug it in. All right, where's its plug? It's on the floor right here. That works. Alrighty. Okie doke. So we've got an ad starting in about 30 seconds or a little bit more than that. So once that ad is over, we'll have plenty of heat in our piece and we can start working again. So we should be able to get a really nice drawdown and a really rounded shackle. This should be much too small to use on or for nefarious purposes, so that's not what this design is for. Basically, I'm just using it to connect these lovely eye hooks to our chain, and hopefully it works pretty well. We shall see. man, I think pretty soon I'm gonna get to this point where I'm gonna have to put on the industrial fan. We are getting into those really hot days in the late spring, early summer, and into the summer. At least it's not late August. In late August, it tends to get into the 90s and hundreds around this area. And we will definitely be using the industrial fan on those days. If it gets too bad, though, we can always go inside the house to the jewelry shop. I've got a couple of projects that are in the middle that we started back when we were working with the pauldron. Not for lifting overhead, lead binding, or incarceration. Yes, or load bearing or incarceration. Yes, exactly. That we are not making shackles and eye hooks or hook eyes for load bearing overhead or incarceration. I mean, I feel like I have to be a little bit on the careful side, you know, cover my rear, because I've got all those auto mods and stuff that are, you know, always crawling around, making life a little bit harder. LOL, yes. I think I smacked my knee. I must have smacked my knee the other day while I was getting the tiller out of the truck, because I got this big old purple bruise on the top of my knee. It's crazy. I just like smacked it on the anvil stand, mostly because I have this habit of like leaning against it, and yeah, not a good idea to, you know, lean against a bruise. Not a tutorial. Go make your own mess. Exactly. I have a disclaimer on all of my YouTube videos that is all activities are done by a professional, and it is not recommended to repeat them on your own. Just so that, you know, if somebody burns down their house because they are not using their forge properly, or, you know, injures themselves, burns themselves, whatever, you know, smashes their thumb, I'm not liable, because I told you not to do this by yourself. All right, let's try this. Okie doke. Okay. Oh man, I have so much crap stacked up, making it more difficult to be over here. And there you have it. We've got our first heat down. We'll do some more on this side. Working a lot faster and a lot better than I could do by hand today, at least. Definitely better than I could do by hand today. I forgot how loud that gets. That thing is hugely loud. It's my air compressor. So I have a really small tank for my air compressor. And so every time I use the press, it has to recompress the whole tank. And it's the bare minimum air compressor to make the press function at all. So I do what I can with the money that I have, but one of these days I'm gonna upgrade that thing. They've got this new one that I saw the other day on a video on YouTube, and it is super quiet. So if I get a chance to upgrade the air compressor, we're definitely going to one that's quieter. So a lot of times when I am using the press, I get a lot of comments on YouTube about how my press is really, really slow. And a lot of times my press it looks really slow in my, live streams because most people who make content using presses will speed up their footage, right? And even I do this when I'm editing our videos down for the long form videos that I do. I actually speed up the press 3 times, so it's at 300 speed every time I use the press. And unfortunately, I cannot speed up the press that fast in real life. So unfortunately, sometimes it takes a while. Could build a compressor cabinet outside too. I definitely could. We had a outdoor compressor cabinet at my college, right? So it was just like this cabinet that sat out there, and the air compressor. It was a huge air compressor because it was designed that the students could use the sandblaster, the what is it? The plasma cutter, and a pneumatic air tool all at the same time. So that thing was huge and it was loud. So they had to install it outside. So one of these days, it might be good to build a cabinet for it outside, and then, I won't have to hear it as much when it goes off. But I mean, at the moment, I gotta be able to power it, and I don't have a good like extension cord or outdoor plug on that side. It's always fun though. One of these days, though, I'm gonna replace both my air compressor and the press itself. But I think the next press that I get is probably actually gonna be a coal iron press or a power hammer. I haven't decided which I want, but I definitely don't want to build my own press anymore. I don't want to build my own power hammer. I just want to buy it. So, like, if it is a homemade one, it'll be just me buying somebody else's homemade piece of equipment. I don't want to have to mess with it. I know it's awesome if you can build your own equipment, because if you can build the equipment, then you can maintain the equipment, and if it breaks or if something goes wrong with it, you have a fundamental knowledge of how it was put together, and that's always better. But I just don't want to put the time and effort into building my own this time. When you build your new she shop, it can have a compressor cabinet. Yes, exactly. When we bought this property, we bought such a big one because we wanted to build a bigger shop, right? So this shop here, it's like a one-car garage from like the 1950s, and we really want to we wanted to build a pole barn out in the backyard. We just did not have the funding to do it right off the bat, and it was supposed to be like one of those 5-year goals, but then like at the same time we ended up with COVID, and then after that we ended up having to replace our septic tank and hook onto the city's sewer, and then now stuff is happening with the butler's work. So unfortunately, that 5-year plan has turned into like a 10-year plan. So we shall see how that goes. Maybe we'll be making enough money in, another year or two that we can build the shop. You never know. Maybe I'll just get that one video that goes viral and it'll all get taken care of. Glass Cannon, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome in, welcome in. I am Ray, I am a blacksmith, so we get to play with lovely forges and kilns too around here. But mine are a little bit smaller than the glass blowing. Lovely, lovely crinkle fries. We're gonna heat this back up. Smaller but hotter. Are they? I don't know. I don't know what the temperature difference is between glass versus my kiln. I know that my kilns get upwards of, this particular one gets upwards of 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and I know glass has a slightly lower melting point than iron, but I'm not familiar, you know? We max out at 2150 Fahrenheit most of the time. That is a little bit less hot, but not too much. Hot is hot, you know? At least when you get to a certain point for the body, you know? When it comes to like metal, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit different. So today we are working on a shackle, and this one's going to be a little shackle. It's designed to take this guy, which is an eye hook, and attach it to a chain. So what I'm actually making overall when I'm finished is a hold down for my anvil. So I've got a screw eye that's going to go in the base of my anvil stand, and then a shackle, and this hook is going to hook into that eye. And on the other side, we've got another shackle and another hook that are going to hold a weight, right? And that weight is going to hold my pieces of steel on the anvil face. So if I can't hold on to it with my tongs, I can use the strap. To actually melt the glass and turn silica into glass, you need to get up to 2,300 to 3,000 Fahrenheit, depending on the formula. But we don't do that in our studio. Yeah, that's a lot. When I was in college, I went to Southern Illinois, Edwardsville. We had a glass blowing program, and it was mostly just a single class. It wasn't like a major that you could pick or anything. But I did take that class. So I took glass blowing one semester. You can't really learn, I mean, you can learn like the bare bones basics by taking one class, but it takes forever to kind of like master it. So anybody who's a glass blower and like a professional glass blower, I respect you guys. It takes a lot of dedication. Yes, I dipped my toes in. Yeah, SIU. So yeah, that's where I got my college education. I majored in sculpture, like fabrication and casting, as well as a little bit of jewelry type stuff. And then later on, I did actually take a jewelry apprenticeship. I guess more in jewelry repair than in design. So yeah, I am a journeyman jeweler, and I have a college degree in fabrication and casting. And then I kind of picked up blacksmithing as an extension a way to create different shapes to kind of fabricate. And so here we are. And that's kind of a little bit about my background. So, yeah, it's been a fun journey, you know, going from. Actually, I started in clay. When I went to college, I wanted to be a potter, and here I am, a blacksmith. It's a little bit of a stretch. I met some of the current SIU students last summer at the GAS conference in Texas. Love that you know so many different types of materials to work with. I just cannot pick a single material, you know. I absolutely love metal and just textures of all types. I do some sewing. I've done some leather working. I do a little bit of everything. But it also means that I'm not really a master of anything. I just dabble here and there. I think jewelry is the thing that I actually have like the most and highest skill with. But we're getting there with this blacksmithing stuff. I've been streaming blacksmithing for about a year and a half now, and I'm starting to get all right where I'm not embarrassed about the pieces that I make. It's one of those things, you know, you start doing a thing, you start learning, and then like a year later you look back and you're a little bit embarrassed, but you're also proud of what you've learned over that span of time. Good luck with your rigging. I'm going to enter lurk mode while I shut down the studio. Makes sense. Have fun. Cool down. I can only imagine how much hotter your space is than mine. We're just starting, so we're just heating up. All right, let's do another heat. Oh, come on. Let's get in here. There we go. All right. All right, we're making some pretty decent progress. You can definitely see the thinness there. We were focusing in on the high spots so that we can get an extra bit of length, and it's been working pretty well. So we will be turning this as we go. More heat. All right. So it is, we are almost at the hour mark, and I'm feeling pretty good. So I think we'll probably end up making it all the way to the 2 hour mark, which I was a little concerned about, but you know, I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're doing pretty good. I think the press, it was a good idea. So back to the gardening topic. So when I read the seed packets, when we started by using seed packets. You know, we've got these like little starter trays that had all of the nutrients that they need, and all you got to do is put the little seeds in and water it. The press definitely saves energy. It definitely does. I'm super excited. Maybe I'll be able to go a little bit longer today. So yes, that is the plan. We're gonna go for another hour, I think. So yeah, I put the seeds in the little tray, and I was like, okay, I guess the next thing I'm supposed to do is to water them. But it says not to overwater it. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just do a little bit of water, just to make sure that it's nice and damp in there. And I think overall, I think I've been underwatering my plants. I have only gotten about half of them to come up. And they started coming up a lot better when I started what I would have considered overwatering the plants. And then, I realized that when it rains, there's a lot more water than like my cups of water that I've been using to water these plants. So I think overall, I think I've just been underwatering my plants. So hopefully I haven't stunted them too much. I've got a few that are about yay tall, but a lot of them are only like this. So I'm hoping that they continue and complete their life cycle before they die or whatever. But I'm hoping that I'm not too late in the season. Evening Sandwich, welcome to the stream. Welcome. But because we did not have enough of what we wanted for the peppers, like to sprout, we bought three of the ones that are already started. So you get like the Bonnie Blue ones or whatever, and they're like yay tall or whatever. So I'm interested to see how well those do once I transplant those from the little pots that they come in to the garden that we tilled. And then we also bought some like little onion bulbs. So it's like this little teeny bulb, and it's got like little leaves that come up about yay big. There's like a super large amount of them that were like kind of banded together. So I don't know how well that'll work either. But we started corn, onions, scallions, peppers, and tomatoes. And then we've got some garlic that we want to try. So hopefully they grow. If not, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll see what we've made, the mistake that we've made. Onions are pretty forgiving. They just love to grow. Well, I hope that's the case. See, of the plants that we're trying to grow, the peppers and the onions are the ones we're most looking forward to, right? Those are the ones that we eat all the time, right? We're not big tomato fans, but we were kind of like wondering if maybe if we grew some tomatoes, then maybe we could turn them into like pasta sauce, like a homemade good pasta sauce, where we got to look for some good recipes for that. See, because we eat a lot of Italian, a lot of like spaghetti, raviolis, and things like that. So we're hoping that all this works. We also really like to eat sweet corn. We'll probably end up getting more sweet corn than we could ever eat, but you never know, right? Maybe I have a brown thumb and I'm just going to kill them all. Or maybe the groundhog will find a way to eat all of my produce. I don't know. We'll see. Still working on getting rid of that groundhog. All right. I'm going to do another heat. And I think I'm going to see about maybe getting a little bit closer with the camera if I can manage it. Just a wee bit closer. Not too much closer because, I don't want to affect the camera with all of the excess heat. All right, there we go. That should work. All righty. comes out just a hair on the anvil so that it doesn't bend too much further. Live trap and peanut butter sandwich for bait. Make a trap for the groundhog. I should make a trap for the groundhog. I mean, I'm a blacksmith. I should be able to. Although I don't really want to kill it, you know? I think a lot of the designs of traps that I could make myself are very much lethal. So I'm pretty sure I could probably come up with something that was non-lethal. But I think manufacturer, or, you know, buying a manufactured one would probably be a little bit easier to deal with. Need more water already. Like I said, it's super warm today. It's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So as the forge heats up more, you know, it starts getting a lot warmer in here too. Even with the little one going. So we've got about 2.5 minutes until our next ad starts. And so I think that'll give us plenty of heat in the piece if we do our next heat after the ad. So that's probably what we'll do. Tractor Supply has live traps. Put some peanut butter sandwich in there and you can catch almost anything. I'll bet. Although I bought some live traps for mice because I had a mouse in here, like, because I stopped spending so much time out here over, you know, COVID and then the subsequent couple of years, and so a mouse started living out here. So I tried the live traps. They're about yay big, and I put a big hunk of peanut butter in it. I never saw I never saw that mouse again. I think it was just because I started moving around in here more. Groundhog Day, one of the movies of my childhood. I watched it on TNT on cable when I was a kid. I think it was definitely old back then because I'm a little bit on the younger side. But it was a pretty fun and interesting movie. It has spawned so many like adaptations and like nods in pop culture. You know, there's constantly Groundhog Day, like comics and TV shows and or episodes and things like that. I saw it in theaters. I was too young for that. I think it's from the late 80s. Yeah, I was born in 1986, right? So I was only alive for 4 years of the 80s, you know, the last 4. So I think my very first movie that I ever saw in theaters was The Little Mermaid when I was like 5. I think it was like 1990. I think that's the very first one I remember. Early 90s. Yeah. I had to, you know, they had to be a little bit on the because I was really young, so I didn't get to watch the like live action stuff as much. Tony Street for Inc. or ST. Oh, Tony, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. I hope you have fun. Oh no, 1983 says Wikipedia. Okay, so at that point, I was 7. And I mean, I guess I could have watched it when I was 7 years old. Maybe. Theoretically. I don't think it was something that my parents would have wanted me to watch, though. All right, so we are in the middle of an ad break. Once this ad is over, we will go back over to the press and we will do our next heat. I think we're making some really good progress here. We do need to kind of take the corners off of the ends of this bar so that I can fit the shackle inside of the hook eye. And so we'll probably spend a little bit of time kind of fitting that together. And But that'll be in a few, I think. It's going to be an interesting day, I think. All out of water, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a Gatorade from the fridge in the house, and I will be right back. I know I saw one. Yes, it's right there. Cool. Red Gatorade. I don't know if red is my favorite or if blue is my favorite. I never know. There is nothing you couldn't have watched, but the concepts in the movie would have gone over your head at that age. Definitely. Definitely. Like I said, I think I watched it on like TNT on some, like, I don't know if it was like Christmas or Christmas Eve. TNT has this, like, or used to have this, like, they would do marathons of movies or whatever. And I think that's where I caught it the first time. All right. Let's do another heat. And then I've got another story for you guys. A story of how my morning went and how it was crappy. Alrighty. We're starting to get there, making some good progress. Kiri, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome to the stream. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Apologies for the sound of the air compressor. We're still compressing a little bit from our last heat. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome in, welcome in. Hi, I'm Ray. I am a blacksmith. Today we are working on a shackle. A rigging shackle, not anything big enough to do nefarious things with, but it is definitely it's going to give us a transition between our eye hooks, like this guy, and a chain. So basically what we are making is a hold down for my anvil. I have a screw eye that's going to go into the anvil base. And then we're going to have a hook and a shackle that goes on that, and then the chain. And on the other end, a shackle and a hook. And it's going to hang on to weights so that I can hold things down on my anvil. So welcome, welcome in, Raiders. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have fun. We are having fun here ourselves. So yeah. We're making some good progress. I've been using the press because I'm a little bit tired today. We did a lot of really hard work in the garden last weekend. We were tilling the patches, and this is my first year gardening. So when I say tilling the patches, like it was breaking up sod and stuff like that. So it was a lot of work, and so I'm a little bit on the tired side. But yeah. We are having fun anyway. the press is making it a lot easier. So I promised you guys a lovely story about how my morning was a pain in the butt. So I play video games like MMOs, and the one thing about the MMO genre that is inevitable and annoying at the same time is every so many months there is a patch and like with new content in it. And so today was one of those days. And so I have a very small hard drive in my main computer, and for like games and little apps and things like that. And then I have a huge hard drive for all of my footage. And unfortunately, the patch for my game was exceeding my small gaming hard drive. And so it screwed up all of my efforts this morning. It started automatically downloading the update. And at the same time, I was trying to download the VOD from last week so I could upload it on to my YouTube channel. And that was not happy. They didn't want to talk to each other, and I had a lot of trouble. So it took me an extra hour to get everything done this morning, and I felt like it was a giant, frustrating waste of time. It also made a couple of my apps like stop functioning, so I had to like restart my computer halfway through like what I was trying to do. It was a pain in the butt. But it's like one of those things where, I could have prevented it. I could have stopped the automatic download from happening, or I could have kept my hard drive a little bit cleaner, or there's any number of things. I brought that on myself, but past Ray is such a frustrating person, but present Ray has to always deal with all of those problems. Annoying. Steam lets you move the game images to another hard drive. See, I would do that, but my video footage hard drive is almost full too. So unfortunately, I couldn't move the game at this time. I had to kind of deal with it. So what I ended up doing, because I have a really fast internet speed for downloading, right? My upload speed is crap most of the time, but my download speed is usually pretty darn good. Is I uninstalled the game. I did all of the things that I needed to do to upload my videos onto YouTube, and then I re-downloaded the game. It only took like 20 minutes. So because a MMO patch, typically it's a lot bigger than the amount that actually stays on your hard drive, right? So you download like 40 gigs worth of like patch for the game, and then it ends up parsing down and replacing a whole bunch of stuff that is in the current game files, right? And then so your 40 gig download parses down to maybe 5 to 10 gigs in the end. And so it was a lot easier for me just to uninstall the game and completely reinstall it than it was to patch it. I find that annoying. It's like, really? I don't know. The game was Elder Scrolls Online, and it was a patch for the public test realm. So I guess I don't even have to be on the public test realm either. I like to. So all right, let's do another heat. But I'm gonna check my camera first. I think we're doing all right. Okay, let's do this. That is my other hobby, blacksmithing and gaming. But I only do MMOs. I don't do a lot of single person games. taking a look at this, and I don't want it to be that much skinnier than it is currently. I do want to make it a little bit longer and a little bit thinner, but not too much. So we're doing a little bit shorter presses, I guess. And yeah, so I think we're actually going to turn it around. Stick it back in the forge this direction. Or maybe instead I will mess up how I'm holding this. At least I didn't drop it, right? There we go. So we're going to stick it in this direction and make that a little bit smaller. You can get 22 terabytes for 400 euros. Oh my goodness. That is super cheap, like in comparison to here in the United States. Or 18 terabytes for a little over 200 euros. That's currently $470 or like 250 respectively. The prices might be different over there, of course. They definitely are. I ended up spending about 250 for the 4 terabyte drive that I put in my computer for my video editing purposes. So yes, definitely more expensive over here. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just find myself a. When was that? That was probably, I don't know, about 6 months ago. So they were inflated at the time. I know that for sure, because like memory and graphics and hard drives were all really expensive for a while, about 6 months ago. So yeah. Super expensive, but these days things are starting to stabilize a little bit. We were having a shortage of a lot of computer components recently because people were buying up parts for AI data centers. All that is still inflated. Yes, I mean, it is to a point. Memory is still up there, but hard drives were not affected as badly. Yeah. It's just, it was super expensive. But like I said, I think that it's partially due to AI data centers. They were building them, and so everything was more expensive for a while. Spinning drives are a bit less than solid state. Hoarding and tariffs, yes, exactly. And I mean, politics, because economics and politics, but like, yeah. So it's just kind of, certain things are starting to go down again and certain things are starting to go up again, and money as a concept sucks. So yes, I don't have the funds right now to pick up another hard drive, so we're just making do with what we've got. Actually, 4 terabytes are close to 200 euros, so way worse than in terabyte bug. Yeah. So it's kind of weird though if 4 terabytes are as expensive as 18 terabytes. I don't know. Maybe I should just buy things or my computer parts in Europe and have them shipped over, but I don't know how well that would work either. Not as. Oh, okay. I must have read that wrong then. I must have read that wrong. Alrighty. Tyler Durkenfang, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Hello, hello. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. I have a lot of fun out here in the shop. It's one of my favorite places to be. This shop and the inside shop. I love making things and hanging out with you guys. All right, we've got plenty of heat, so let's do another press. Making some good progress today. I'm pretty excited about that. I did not think we were going to make this much progress. I won't lie. There we go. That's where I wanted to be. All right, so we've got a good section for both of the eyes. I do want to do one more heat over on this section, the transition between this side and then the base area where that shackle, like the loop, is going to be. And then from there, I don't know, we'll probably move back over to the anvil, start working there. The cheapest available 4 terabyte I can find is 150 euros. Oh, okay, and the 209 18 terabyte is not currently available. So it is 20 terabytes for over 400. Yeah, I don't have that kind of money right now. Honestly, it's because we are going to be adding a few upgrades to the van. So we are going to be adding in a new inverter so that we can charge our van battery a lot faster while we're while we have the van going, because we have a subsequent battery so that we can, charge our phones and camera batteries and the lights and things like that. And so we want to be able to charge that battery a lot quicker. So we're getting an inverter. And then the other thing that we're getting is a swivel seat. So it's basically a plate that replaces the attachment for the seat to the vehicle, and it allows you to unlock the seat and turn it 180 degrees. So that's going to give us a lot of extra function and room in the back of the van for our camping purposes. Can the butler get some retired storage from work? The butler at work actually ends up using a server system, right? So all of their data goes through like their big old server, and it's kind of like a hub kind of thing. So when they're individually working on a project, they download off of the server, put it on their individual like machines, and then when they're finished, it goes back into their own system. So they don't actually have a lot of hard drives to retire, if that makes sense. I think that's how a lot of news stations and like larger data crunching places work these days. I do sometimes get a hold of the little memory cards for the cameras that way. But I feel like we supply more to them than they supply to us, because the little memory card, the SD cards, are constantly getting lost. So someone will, like the butler will have data on a SD card and they'll hand it off to somebody else who needs it or whatever, and they'll never give it back. And so the butler needs cards for their cameras and has to go and buy them using personal money. So I kind of feel like some of the hardware, like the cameras, we get that stuff all the time. Like these two cameras are retired from the butlers work, but unfortunately we do not get any like hard drives and things like that from work when it's retired. It'd be nice though, wouldn't it? All right, so I'm going to move this camera, the close-up one, over back to the anvil. We're going to start kind of straightening things out, rounding them out, and then we're going to see if we can't thread or make it so that we can thread the shackle through the hook eye. So let's start that process. Alrighty. So I'm probably going to go over here. And we're probably going to get a little bit shorter. Maybe not a full all the way to the ground short, maybe about halfway. There we go. That's better. Much more better. Okay, cool. We've got a little bit on the horn that is visible and a little bit on the face of the anvil, so we should be good. All right, let's do our next heat. This is definitely where I'm going to start getting a little bit on the tired side, but we are starting to get towards that 2-hour mark. Okay. Maybe I said that I was going to work on this transition a little bit more. I don't remember. Get in there. Okay. Now we're going to flip this over like so, and we're going to work on the other transition a little bit. We're going to heat that up again now so that it's nice and hot and it moves real easy. Camera cards, business trip with colleagues. I brought my camera but forgot an SD card, so we hunted down an SD card over a gigabyte. Next business trip, same colleague, him mockingly. And did you bring an SD card this time? Looks in the camera, nope. Ooh, see, that's the problem, right? You got to be super diligent when you are traveling to make sure that you have SD cards for all your cameras. And it's special because, like, the more data that you're processing, so like the higher resolution your cameras are, the better SD card you have to do. So like for these cameras, because they are recording in 2K, I have to have a, like, there's a little 10 in a circle. I'm not entirely sure what that denotes, but I think it has something to do with write speed. So like when it's writing the information onto the little SD card, it's like a little circle with a 10 in it. Great Britain and not gigabyte. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, class 10. So I have to have class 10 ones, and they work just as well for 4K because while I record in 2K, and I don't have the bandwidth to broadcast in 2K, unfortunately, but I do record in 2K so I can like punch in for close-ups. The Butler records in 4K, and the Class 10 works for that as well. The Butler actually, it's not just in 4K. The Butler also records in RAW. So RAW records more data than just the straight, like 2 and 4K. So it's like it retains more of the color data. But when you pull down, and that's what they call when you take the footage and put it in the computer in like the editing software, it's called pulling down. So when you pull down raw footage and you look at it, it's all muted in like grays and mid tones. So you kind of have to color correct everything that you do in raw. Yeah, the faster ones are pretty expensive. So the ones that I have in these cameras are 128 gigs each. I only have one per camera, even though they will take two. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how expensive some of this like data storage can be. All right, so we've got an ad coming up in about 2.5 minutes. And I've got plenty of heat, so we're going to do one more heat before that ad starts. Woo, look at all that scale flying. All right, we're doing pretty well. I think we're going to do a couple more heats of that. So if we take a look here, I definitely can see that it's going to take some effort to thread this through, right? So we've got those square, and I'm hoping that if we just get rid of the corners, we should just be able to thread that through. The goal is to allow this to rest inside of the skinny section, so it's going to hang like so. So this right here is actually going to be bent 180 degrees into a U shape. So we might need a little bit more length just to get that, but I don't want to go too much skinnier because I don't want this to be like moving around and like knocking around too much. All right. I'll put that over there. I've got 30 seconds to spare according to the timer. I'm doing pretty good. Oh man, people are apparently going home early today. We've got a single lane road out that way and it's already starting to back up. Actually, I think my camera records 4K fine on slower cards. Not in RAW, though. Admittedly, I only noticed the difference for still image bursts. After filming some, or firing some seconds with 20 images per second, the camera will write forever and with the slower cards. Yeah, I don't think that it can write long enough clips on the slower cards doing 4K RAW. So on the main big camera, I can actually do the whole stream. So like a 2.5, almost 3 hours of footage that I can just write as one continuous clip. Over here on this camera, this camera is older, so it only does 30 minutes per clip. RAW, I haven't tested. Yeah, RAW is just, it's a lot more data. So I think it's double the gigabytes that the normal 4K is because the butler writes in it all the time. Ads. I got ads. So yeah. Looks like we are at an hour and 36 minutes. So I think I'm probably gonna do another 30 minutes or so of streaming today, just so that I can go back in the house and spend a little bit of time resting before the butler comes home and I have to do more gardening. So I feel like I feel like I've gotten that extra burst of energy that I was looking for by coming out here. I feel a lot better than I did before I came out here, but I need to save a little bit of energy for going out and doing the gardening. I haven't gotten into video editing. Yeah. Enough for raw. So Mahalo says, I'm too amateur to bother enough with raw, and so does Sandwich. For still images, I always save RAWs, but I hardly use them. JPEG engines are great in recent cameras. Yeah, I am also too amateur for RAW. I am just now getting to the point where I'm starting to look into color correction. So I've been editing for about a year and a half now, and I post 5 shorts and 1 edited video that I do every week. So I've produced quite a bit of edited content these days. And I'm finally getting to the point where I'm starting to add color correction into the mix. What I really want to do is get some graphics in there. I've not done anything with graphics, or at least nothing like too complicated. I know how to put words on top of my images, but I'm not real good at like making moving graphics and things like that. But yeah, I think part of the reason that we don't do raw is because I'm not really into color correction yet. And then it also would be a lot of effort to kind of convert the raw into usable data. It's a lot more to store. And so like I think for BAM we might actually start working in either 4K or 4K and raw. I kind of have to talk to the butler about that, what they recommend for our BAM conferences, because those, like, I want to be able to have really high quality images. Here I'm a one-man band. I move the cameras myself. It's too much effort on the daily. But for special events like the different conferences that we go to, I do want to get that extra oomph in my videos. Agreed. I just want to point and shoot and share, right? And I mean, if it's not your job, that's totally, and I mean, even on YouTube, most people don't use RAW. Most people just are like, oh, we're going to shoot in like 2K, maybe 4K if we want to do some fancy cut-in stuff. One-man band. Are those also rings for 2 people? Oh, are there also rings for 2 people? Something like that. Hey, Blue Red Metal, welcome to the stream. RAW makes sense at the conference because you'll be shooting in all kinds of light conditions. Exactly. And like I said, I am starting to get into color correction. So I think, and I use DaVinci Resolve as my editing software, and that's done by Red. So like the Red Cam company, they're the ones that make DaVinci Resolve. And so they actually, all of their Red cameras shoot exclusively in RAW. So they have a whole package of LUTs, LUT, I think that's called. But they're like filters that you can put on RAW footage that will make it look correct, if that makes sense. So I feel like I could just throw a LUT on all of the footage from the conference and it'll work, right? Lookup tables, yes. See, you guys know what this stuff is better than I do. All right, let's do another heat. I'll eventually learn it because I want to continue to up my game and up my game. And if I learn to do that, if we fail here, and I'm not planning on failing, then I can take the knowledge that I have elsewhere. All right. That was amazing. All right, so I think this is actually starting to look pretty good on this side. So we're going to start working on this transition here. And then I think this side is the one that I'm going to round out to see if I can't attach or thread the eye through there. See, my plan is to understand this stuff just enough that I can direct the butler after I hire them to do all of my editing stuff so I don't have to edit anymore. I only know because I watched drone videos and they all recommend raw and show how to edit and stuff. I just don't want to. I mean, yeah, editing is so boring. It's just like busy work, and it's not even like you can really skip it. It's just like you just have to do it. You have to scan through stuff and figure out where the ends are, and it's just a bunch of busy work, I feel like. And every time I think I'm getting faster at it, I add another step, and then so I never get any faster in the end, because it's like, you know, when I get better at like doing the cuts and, you know, the B-roll and stuff like that, then I decided that I needed better sound. And so I started working with the sound a little bit better, and I added music. And then when I got good at that, then I was like, oh, well, the butler's like, maybe you should move your B-roll. And so then I learned how to like make the B-roll move. And so now I'm learning color correction. So every time I feel like it's getting shorter, I add another step and I learn a new process. So the videos are getting better over time, but it's never getting faster. It never gets faster. Live and learn, right? Add another step, and another step. Maybe if I learn well enough, I can kind of help other people out and teach them, right? That's the goal. I can teach blacksmithing, and I can teach editing and data processing and YouTubing. Okay. Let's see here. We are almost to the point where it is as long as the face of the anvil. So I think we're going to try and see if we can't get that extra like ½ inch so that I can have good edges and use the face of the anvil to flatten everything out. And I think that's plenty of material for a shackle. It's also a nice given measurement so that when I do this for my second one, I can make the same size, you know? Like when I look at my two hooks, right? They're not the same length. And so, you know, one's longer than the other a little bit. And, you know, if I use the face of the anvil as I don't know, you must ride this ride, or you must be this tall to ride this ride, then they'll be a little bit similar, right? Post-production is like double the work of making the content in the first place. Exactly. I mean, it's so right. You guys are so right on that. So I spend all day on Tuesday and all day on Thursday editing, right? So I produce 5 shorts and 1 edited piece every week. And then I also use the time before my streams to also edit. So I get one day where I can run errands, right? I buy my propane that day. I check the mailbox that day. I do whatever other errands I need to do to get done for, you know, the stream and for the rest of the week. And then the other 2 mornings, I end up editing. And it just, you know, it takes like a lot longer. And I've come up with shortcuts too, because most editing softwares nowadays, they have AI transcripting. So it will parse through your entire video and it will put out a script of everything that you said. And so I can just sit there and search for keywords for the things that I want to say in my videos. And that speeds things up a lot. That way I don't have to watch through like however many hours of material just to find what I'm looking for. But, you know, it still takes a long time. It still takes a long time. Machina X Marcus is raiding with a party of 4. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. My name is Ray. I am a blacksmith. I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 2:30 Eastern US time. Today we are making a shackle for rigging. Not to be confused with a shackle for untoward legal purposes. I'm just going to call it that. So, yeah, these are going to be way too small to do anything nefarious with. Got me at blacksmith. Awesome. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Rigging a boat. Not quite. We are not rigging a boat. What we are doing, however, is we're trying to create a hold down for my anvil. So as I'm working, sometimes I need to use like a tool and the hammer, and I just can't hold on to my piece of steel while I'm using those two tools at the same time. You know, I only have two hands, and I need a third hand, right? So sometimes I use this guy right here. It sits in the round hole and it kind of sits there and holds on to things, right? Well, this doesn't always work every single time. So I want a chain to hold down my stuff. Okay, I got it stuck in here. I don't know how I got it stuck in here. That's really awkward. There it goes. Haha. So yeah, I've got a chain I've got a threaded ring, and we're going to take two of these guys. They are, we made these last week. These are hook eyes, and so we need shackles to attach the hook eyes to the chain. So one end holds onto the anvil stand, the other holds onto weights, and that way the chain can then hold down our pieces of steel for us. Yes, so like a clam. You two should collab. Camper van, boat riding, the perfect vacay suppliers. I also have a camper van. I go to a lot of blacksmithing events, and so we have been modifying a Chevy Express in order to kind of camp on location and have a nice dry area where I can do some editing and some footage processing. It is a bold piece of metal that challenges a blacksmith in their anvil. I'm currently building a teardrop trailer. Ooh, those things are so cool. Unfortunately, I just don't have the skills with some of the, you know, the woodworking and stuff that you got to do for that. Just not great at that. Marcus went to the woods to fell trees and make a trailer from scratch. At least that's how I understand. Wow. That is effort. That I commend that. I mean, wow. I buy my materials from the store. It's probably all wrong, but I'm trying to talk Marcus up, right? Yay, it worked. Yes, yes. Okay, so I need to pull the steel out of the forge right now. So what we are doing right now is just lengthening out our piece of steel. We've got two little blocks on either end, and those are going to be little eyes for the shackle. This is going to be one of those like little U shapes that a bolt goes through and holds it together. So we are going to be making the U shape. That's what we're making right now. So I need to be able to thread it through the eyes in that U shape. Mailing your own or milling your own lumber is dedication, right? It takes so much effort and so much money because you've got to like come up with the saws and stuff to do that. And then once you've milled it, you have to have a facility to hold it so that it can dry out in time and stuff. Man, that's crazy. I could not do that. I commend your ingenuity. Like I said, I'm trying to make this just a hair longer so that I can use the face of the anvil as kind of a measuring device so that both of these guys, I need to make 2 of them, and I want them both to be similar in size. So we're starting to get there. And I think we're about where we want to be. That's really exciting. Okay, so the next step is to take off all of these corners, right? Because we need the U shape to be round, and then we need to be able to thread this guy through there. And I'm pretty sure that if I just take the corners off of this, it'll thread right through. But before I thread it, I want to make sure that the shackle is nice and smooth as is without the eye in it or on it. For the record, I did not do any of that. It's all store-bought plywood. I have developed woodworking skill as part of effort, though. Most of my money is in machining tools. And all my effort goes out the window. Still, I am absolutely lousy at woodworking. I'm just crap at it. Every time I try and add wood to one of my pieces, I end up having to buy 2 of all of the pieces of wood that I'm going to use, because the first time I screw it up. The second time I make it all right. It works for the most part. It's not the most pretty thing ever, but it works sort of. It's one of those things that I know that if I practiced, I could get really good at it. But it's the whole time and energy needed to perfect the craft. And I'm already kind of like working at perfecting blacksmithing and several other crafts. I am pretty much a jack of all trades, master of none. In general. I have sandpaper and I'm not afraid to use it. Waves a sheet of sandpaper, by the way, of evidence. Yeah, I have a lot of sandpaper myself. And I also have tools that make sanding a lot easier. I also have tools that make blacksmithing a lot easier. We were earlier in the stream, we were using my press. This is a air compressor powered pneumatic press that allows me to draw things out a lot easier than if I do it by hand. I can do it by hand, and most of my other stuff I have done by hand, but today I really needed a break, so press it was. Oh my god, is that a domestic power hammer? It is unfortunately not a power hammer. It is a press, a pneumatic press. This one, I can't recommend this one because it just doesn't quite have the power that I'm looking for. You can make a much better power hammer out of a log splitter than you can out of an A-frame or like a. Just this one originally it is for pushing ball bearings out of wheels and stuff. So it just doesn't quite have the power that I'm looking for. So a very slow power hammer, a slow motion power hammer. Yes, it is very slow. Although most people who post videos of presses in on YouTube and other social media, they also like they speed it up quite a bit. I unfortunately can't do that in real life. You know, we're live broadcasting, so you get to see all of the extra time that it takes to do things. You get to see all my mistakes. You get to see me try and figure out what I did wrong and fix it. All right. So they are sheeting a little bit, only a little bit. Okay. Man, it is warm out today. It is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the forge going, it's a little bit warmer than that. It's probably more like closer to the 90s in this particular shop Fahrenheit. All right, let's do another heat. Like I said, we are going to be doing something with corners, something to that effect. But first, I think I'm going to change my angle on my camera because I get bored editing. We were just discussing that earlier, my editing habits. Having more exciting shots that I can watch as I'm editing my videos, you know, it helps. It definitely helps me. Okay. Let's do another heat. Exciting. Okay, like I said, we are going to be taking the corners off of this guy. Hate when I do that. Oh, now we're twisting it. That's all right. We're trying to round it out to begin with, so it's all right. So we're going from a square to an octagon, and then we are trying to get rid of all of the facets, kind of make things nice and round and smooth. These tongs do not want to hang onto this piece of steel today. All right, couple more heats and we'll have it nice and smooth. We've got a lot of faceting still in this piece, so we're going to keep on keeping on, but it's getting there. Oh, we have met our 2-hour mark, which I did say that I was going to end the stream at the 2-hour mark. But you know what? I think I'm going to go the extra half an hour. And we're going to do our full length stream. I always remember that joke of a very sad, large feline cub. He can't complete or compete in any games because they say cheetahs never win. Cheetahs never win, right? Oh, I'm out. Out of liquid. And missing my garbage can. Alright, I'm debating if it's warm enough that I'm going to need another Gatorade. Ordinarily, I try to limit myself to 1 Gatorade per session because there's a lot of sugar in Gatorade, you know? Normally, I try to make up the difference in water. You know, more water, the better. But I don't want to sit there and fill my cup with water right now. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I get too thirsty in the next couple of heats. We don't have that long left in the stream. So I need to take the corners off of the block at the end eventually. And I think that will allow me to get or thread the eye hole from the hook onto the shackle. in theory. We shall see how well my theory works. Okay, let's do another heat, smoothing out the main section of the shackle. Can I get this in here? No, it's still a little bit too weirdly short. I wanted to try and get that, but it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. So we'll just use the horn. Alrighty, so we are going to do one more heat rounding out the center area, and we are going to flip this around like so. And by flipping it around, we now have access to the transition between this block of steel and the bar. All right, and we've got our last add incoming in about a minute and a half. So once that add is over, we'll do another heat. We will, at that point, we should have a relatively round center bar, and we can start kind of pushing in the corners so that we can thread the hook through. That'll probably be the last thing that we get around to today, is threading the first hook through. From there, what we need to do is we need to decide if we need to upset our piece of steel or if we can just flatten it out and create our lovely eyes on that. Because basically we're kind of trapping the hook into that center area. We are going to be flattening out those little blocks and creating eye holes by slitting and then drifting them open into holes. And slitting and drifting is basically, instead of using a drill, what we do is we start with a chisel that is round, right? So we've got this little block of steel. It's like a little chisel almost. And we kind of create like a buttonhole, right? We shove this all the way through and we open up the hole. We start with like a small hole and then we can push the material out and we don't lose as much material. We're not boring out all of that material. We are just moving it aside. So yeah, it should be a fun project. I gotta make 2 of these guys. So this is our first one, and we should be able to finish both of them by the end of day Friday, I hope. Fingers crossed. I tend to spend about 2 weeks on projects, I'm learning. Like on the projects that I think are going to be short projects, like 1 week ones, I tend to do 2 weeks on them. I think I do need a drink. I will be right back. It's going to be another red one, isn't it? I think I said 2 reds. Red Gatorade. All right. So once our ad is done, we will start working again. Again. I forgot. Are you making rivets for the shackle or just bolting it? I should just be bolting it. That would be the plan. So anything that has threading on it, I will be purchasing, right? So the threaded eye that goes into the anvil stand, I'm going to buy that from Lowe's. Same with the bolt that is going to create the rest of the shackle. I want to be able to take it off and on if I need to, repair things and stuff like that. So yeah, I will be purchasing bolts for this piece. And I know some people are going to be like, well, that's cheating, but you know what? It's not that cheating. I just don't have a tap and die set that is big enough for this particular project. So it's just easier and cheaper for me just to buy the bolts and like the little threaded stuff. Makes sense. Yes. All right. Let's round out the rest of this. There's a couple of bumps on this side that I want to address. Alrighty. Pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me. Alright, we've kind of got like a dog bone, or like a bone shape right now. You know, we've got the two ends there, and then that central area. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to heat this back up, and we're going to focus in on this block of steel right here. And we're going to take the corners off. I have a lathe and a milling machine, but I don't own my fasteners. Life is too short. Or I don't make my own fasteners. Life is too short. Exactly. The big taps and dies are expensive. They are, man. They are. I think the only person that I've really seen have the big ones are people who've had them for years and years and years, and Alex Steele. Alex Steele always has the best tools, man. Man, there is this there's a company who has been contacting content creators recently, and they are making like electric forges. So it's basically a water cooled spool of like heat, and it almost instantaneously heats up your steel. I want one of those, man. Alex Steele got one, and Black Bear got one. I want one. I don't have a big enough audience yet, though. Those things take such high voltage, though. Yeah, the induction forges, yes. Those are the, I want one so bad, but I don't know that I have the voltage to power one right now. I've got 240 over there for my welder, but I think that you actually have to have something a little bit bigger than that even. But yes, an induction forge would be a really nice tool to have. You get some really precise heats with that thing. I was really scared of an induction forge because I thought that the electricity going through it, if you were to accidentally drop your piece of steel onto the coil, that it would electrocute you, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything. Probably not even higher voltage, but lots of current. Yeah. And I mean, you can kind of turn it on and off and stuff. It doesn't have a really long ramp up to it. So, I mean, in all technicality, I probably wouldn't use quite as much energy as if I were, you know, to keep it on all the time, you know. All right, we've got plenty of heat, so let's do this. Let's see if we can't get this to thread on. Getting rid of the quarters. We're getting a little bit of fish lipping, but that's exactly what I was like planning for. I don't really want to lose the material back here. I kind of want it to just like sit there. All right, let's see. How easy is it going to be to thread you on? We're almost there, you know. It's pretty decent. So I don't want to reduce the size of this that much. So we're getting there. Maybe one more heat and we should be able to do it. I moved to an induction cooktop recently. Even that is impressive. Yeah, we really wanted an induction cooktop for the van, right? Because you can turn it on and be using it, but we also have a cat that comes along with us sometimes, and if like we pick up the pan and you know are doing whatever and then the cat gets up on the induction burner, it won't burn the cat, you know, it's only going to heat the pan. So it would be really good to have. Right now we have a propane like powered camp stove, but it would be really nice to be able to power an induction camp stove. Actually, the cooktop takes 3.7 kilowatts. The maximum you can pull from one phase over here, 23 volt plus 230 volt plus 13A. And I guess I could get something glowing red quickly. Cat on a hot 10 pan, yes. I don't want to burn my poor kitty. Because, like, sometimes, you know, it starts raining and you can't really use a cook stove inside, like, your van. You know, you kind of have to figure out a way to do it outside in the rain. So it'd be nice to have something for emergencies. All right, let's do one more heat on this, see if we can't thread it through. Actually, I've got to figure out if I've got enough footage. Yes, I do. Good. I only got about a 30-minute clip on that camera. Okay, let's try this again. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Ha! That's exactly what I wanted to see. Yay! Okay, so that's probably all we're going to do for the day, because we're going to have to start a whole brand new process to do the next thing. So once we've threaded this on here, what we're going to do is we're going to flatten out both of these ends, and we are going to be punching holes in them. So this, once I flatten those out on both sides, it should lock this guy in place. And then it won't be able to move. So that's exactly what I want to see. So that's probably all I've got in me for today. So we are going to be doing those holes on Wednesday. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they go just as fast as the holes for this guy, and we will be able to start working on our other shackle. I want to do kind of a half and half stream. You know, the first shackle and the second shackle. All right, guys. After all, it is a glass sheet which had a hot pot sitting on it seconds ago. Yes. The cooktop is not actually cold though after using it, so the cat will not be cooked, but it still might hurt. Yeah, it has to be a little bit hot. So I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works. But yeah, I think that's all I am going to be doing for today. We are going to raid off. So thank you all for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you on Wednesday. If any of you guys have a suggestion for who we want to raid, let me know. Otherwise, I shall see who we got. Good job, Ray. Thanks for the stream. Thank you. Have a nice day. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Who is on? Interesting. Let's see. I don't see anybody. That we normally raid. How about some rug making? Are you guys interested in rug making? Pika Cools is on. Working on a rug. Or maybe in the kitchen. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll see you Wednesday, hopefully. Bye.